Hi guys, in this video we are going to be building a C# version of the quote server, and we do that in Unity, obviously, because why not? It's a great platform. So let's get started after the fade. So I'm going to go ahead and create another project, and this is going to house our server. So I'm going to say new, and I'm going to call this quote server. It's going to be 2D. And I'm going to create the project. But I do want to close this one here. Go to client. No, I don't want that one. I want the wisdom file. So here's our listener project here. Open folder. Okay, so this is the file I want, is wisdom.txt. So I'm going to grab that in just a sec. So my project is going to have a couple of folders. So scenes, create folder scripts, and then finally I'm going to have a folder called resources. And my resources folder, I am going to have wisdom.txt, and that's where my quotes are going to go. So my quotes, I'm going to create a script for that. So create C# script, and this is going to be quotes, and I'm also going to have another script called quote server that we're also going to build. Okay. And scenes, might as well save this current scene. Quote server. Okay, so quote server is not going to have anything in it really. It's just going to have a camera, and that's about it really. Okay, so the quotes we're going to load in from our resources file. Now, does this have to be a mono behavior? Probably not. In fact, let's not make it mono behavior. Okay, but I do want to do public quotes, file name. So when we read in this file name, I want to read the contents of the file. But I want to do it line by line because remember that if I grab where's my quotes? Did I close that window? Okay, it doesn't matter. So if I double click that, all the quotes end with a quotation, the percent symbol. So I want to do using stream. Oops. Oh no, I can't do that because I'm using a text asset. Okay, so I'm going to do text asset txt asset equals resources dot load file name, and I think I need to do it as text asset, and then I want to get the text from that. So I want to then say this makes it so much more difficult using text asset. Or does it? No, it doesn't, because I think I can do it this way. So I can do string list string quotes, and then I can say quotes dot add range txt asset. Let me split this up into a couple of things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all the quotes, delimit them by the percent symbol, and then add them as an array. So I'm going to do string quotations equals text asset dot text dot split, and then it's going to be percent to char array. And then I want to do, say, string split options using system.remove empty entries because I don't want any empty entries in there. And that's going to give me all my quotes. And then I want to say quotes.addRange quotations. All right, that's actually a lot easier than I thought about it. Okay. All right, so that's everything's now loaded. And now I want to have, I mean, we could do this as a property. Let's do this. Public string random quote. So we can get random quote from this. And the random quote is just going to be return quotes random dot, oh, because we've got to do unity engine dot random dot range range, and this is going to be 0 0 and quotes dot length count even. Okay, and then that's it. I think that's it. We're done. We're done. Ship it. Okay, so well, that was a lot easier than I was thinking. Sometimes you just overthink these things. All right, so here's our quote part of the quote server. So we read in the text asset. We then split out the text asset because everything gets split out by that percent symbol. And then we add those split strings out into our quotes. And that's it, we're done. That's our quotation marks, our quotes are now in memory. And then to get a random quote, I'm just going to use a property. I mean, you could have this as a method if you want, get random quote, but every time, I mean, we're building this ourselves, so it's not like we're going to give this out to anyone. So every time we call this property, we get a different quote. I think that's, we're done there. Okay. And the next thing we want to do is we want to have our quote server here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have quotes as a member field there, and I'm going to do quotes equals new quotes, and it's wisdom is the name of the file. And remember, because it's a resource file, you don't put the extension, you just put whatever the name of the file is. So it's called wisdom, so that's what we're calling it there. And I'm just going to spew out a couple of random things. So for int I equals 0, I less than 10, I plus plus. So 10 random quotes. So I'm going to do debug.log just to make sure this is working, quotes.random quote. So I'm calling the same property over and over and over again just to see what happens. And then I'm just going to put this on the main camera. Quote server. So hopefully we're going to get 10 random, excuse me, 10 random quotes when we run this puppy. Nope. 21. What's wrong with 21? 21 quotes is null. Well, that's easily fixed. There you go. There's our easy fix there for our quotes. So it's 4 lines of code in there, all bunched up together as one. And so we run this, and now we get our quotes. So yeah, we're getting all our quotes there. Buckaroo Banzai. Well, no matter where you go, there you are. Great quote there. So yeah, we have our quotes. So now what we need to do is be able to dish that out to anyone who is connected. So what I want to do now is, I don't want to have that, and I don't need an update, because you'll see that in just a sec. But I do want to have public string IP address equals 127.0.0.1, public int port equals 54010. And I want to have a TCP listener. And I'm going to call it server. And I need to set up the sockets for it. I need to add our using system.net.sockets. So now that we have our server there, we have our IP address, we can just start the process, the ball rolling, so to speak. So I think what we do is we can have this as an enumerator. We can have this as an enumerator, and what that means is we can then just have a yield inside our function call just to make sure that everything's ticking over and everything's good to go. Okay, so what do we need in here? So we need our quotes there. We need a buffer for the receive buffer. So we need to do buffer equals new byte 49152. So we get our 48K buffer. Then we need to create an instance of the server. We need to a TCP listener. We need to initialize that to the IP address and port, and we then have to wait for a connection. Okay, so we do server equals new TCP listener, and it takes the listen IP address. So we need a new IP address, which is, oh, why is that not letting me do that? IP address, IP, which is, why is it not letting me do that? Oh, because it's capital P, that's why. IP address, which is just the IP address. And it needs the port as well. So we need IP and we need the port. And we need to start the server. And again, we'll refine this over time, but we need to, why is that not working? No, I think I need to parse it, don't I? There we go. So I need to parse the address out there. Okay, so server.start. So this effectively does the bind operation, this part here. So it creates the socket, does everything else, binds the IP address and the port number to our server, and then we start the server. And now we just want to run this server forever. So we want to do while true, and then down here we'll do yield return null, just to make sure we're doing something. So now our enumerator is going to work. Now we want to accept a new client. So, well, we want to do int bytes received equals 0, and then do while byte, oops, is greater than 0. So while we get values in here, what we want to do is we want to say TCP client equals server.accept. Is it accept TCP client? I think it's accept TCP client. And then we want to get the stream. So var stream equals client.getStream. And then we want to read the value from the stream, determine if it is a quote, and if it is quote, we want to send that out. Now all of these are blocking calls, and again, this is just the sort of bare bones C# version of the server, so we're not too worried about the blocking calls just now, but we will be looking into that later on. Throughout this kind of series of networking videos. So I want to receive into a buffer, so I want to receive into here. So I want to do stream.read, and then specify the buffer, which is buff offset, and then buff.length. That's going to be bytes received equals that. So if bytes, oops, is greater than 0, why is it not liking that? It is liking it. I don't know why it didn't get rid of the red squigglies there, but it didn't. So we're reading in the number of, that was my phone. We're reading in from the stream into this buffer. We specify the offset and we specify the length. And that returns the number of bytes received. So only if the number of bytes received is greater than 0 do we want to do anything with it. So we want to get that into a string. So we want to do string message equals, and then we do our encoding. We need to get to system text.ascii.get string, and then we get it from the buffer offset and then bytes received. Oops, jumping the gun there. And then if message is equal to quote, then we want to send that back out to the client. So if message equals quote, we want to send a message back. So we do stream write, and then we need to, first of all, we need to get the buffer out. So we need to do string quote out equals, actually it would be byte quote out equals, and then encoding .ascii.get bytes, and then we specify the string. So this is going to be our quotes.random quote. Okay, so that's the quote from our randomizer. And then we want to send that byte, we want to send this byte array out across that stream. So then we would do stream.write, and then we specify the buffer, so quote out, move this up a bit, and then the offset, which is 0, and then quote out dot length, and that sends everything out. And then I think we're good to go after that. So let's run through this again. Okay, so we create an instance of our quotes. We create an instance of a buffer to store the received data. We could actually make this quite a lot smaller because we're not going to need 48K for a quote, but whatever. So this creates our server. It binds the IP and port to an internal socket, which we don't need to know. And it starts the server listening in on that port. So all of that, if you're following the C++ version of this, so all of that, creating a hint structure, binding an IP address there, setting up to be listening, accepting connections, all that kind of stuff. It was not accepting connections, but setting up the listener and all that kind of stuff is handled inside these 2 lines of code. So .NET hides quite a lot from you. And then to accept an inbound communication request, we call accept TCP client, and that returns the TCP client instance for the client that just connected. We then use the stream from that client and we read in any messages that they send to us. So hopefully they're going to send quote to us, but we don't know. So we put that inside buffer. If we received a positive number of bytes, so 1 or more bytes, then we check to see if it said quote, and if it did say quote, then we write the random quote back out to the client. Okay, so all of that being said, we should test this out now. Let's make sure everything's okay. So there you go. And we don't have any display or anything, but we could work something out later on for this. Okay, so let's play this. Yeah, okay, so here's the problem with this, is that it's running, but it's blocked here. So although it's running, it's still waiting for this to be called in here. So I think we can probably get away with it by going here and then getting a quote. So if we do get quote, we should be able to get a quote. So it's connected to the server. There's no other server running. It's just the quote server. So I should be able to hit get quote and it will return a quote to me. So here we go. If you don't survive, don't do anything else. And this is us getting the quote. And just to prove that it is that, if I go back to the quote server here, I'm going to set a breakpoint on here and attach this to Unity. So this is my quote server, okay? So that's it attached to Unity. So when I click on get quote, what? What is it connected to? It's not connected to that. Well, that's just weird. Well, it's definitely getting it. Well, okay, we can, let's prove that it's that. Okay, let's change the quotes. So what we'll do is we will go to here, go to our, this is the quote client, this is the, where am I? Of course it's crashed. Ruh-roh. Okay. Oops. Okay. I know why, but it's kind of annoying, but whatever. That's the quote server, so I want to end task on that one. Okay. All right, let's open that up again. All right, so quote server. So we'll prove that it's the right one, but I'll need to change a couple of things to get it to work properly. Alrighty, so here's our resources here. So we have wisdom. So I'm going to show an explorer, and I'm going to create another document called new wisdom.txt, and this is just going to contain 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 3, 3, 2. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so that's all that's going to contain. And then inside my scripts for here, reload all. Yep. I'm going to say public string wisdom file equals wisdom. Wisdom file. And in this instance, I'm going to change this to, what do I call it? New wisdom. New wisdom. Okay. So I'm going to save this, and just to prove that this is the right server that's running, and we'll come back to this maybe after the outro to fix the snagging problems here. So that's it running, and then I'm going to go to my quote client here, and then when I run this, I should get a random, basically a random number between 1 and 5. So here we go. So we're getting a random number here. So we're getting 3, 1, 2, 3, 5, 3. We're never going to get 4. There you go. There's 4. So that's, we are definitely running that server on the other one there, but unfortunately it's going to crash out as soon as I go back to there. Okay. Well, sorry to leave it there, but we'll figure something out. I know exactly what's happening. Basically, the main thread's getting stalled out because of the block. So we're going to have to sort of figure something out how to do that in Unity. So I'm going to take a couple minutes and figure that out. So yeah, if you liked the video, thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, then thumbs down. And please, leave a comment below either way. Feel free to subscribe. I know everyone's time's important, and I do appreciate you dropping by and spending some time on these videos. So yeah, until next time, take care. Thanks. Thanks again for watching. Bye. So I think the issue is, if I get the quote of the day one, this is the server in task. So I think the problem is that I need to have an asynchronous version of the quote of the actual accept client. So I'm wondering if there is a version of that. Reload all. Okay. So the problem is this line here. The problem being that this is effectively a blocking call. I don't mind these because these are actually fairly short, so that's okay, but this one here stalls everything out. So I think begin accept TCP client. Okay, this is the one that we want. So we want to begin to accept a TCP client rather than running everything rather than running this in the main thread and basically stalling out. We want to do the asynchronous thing that we did for our quote client. Not quote client, but our client for quotes. So this is our async callback. So this is going to be client connected. So the client connected is going to be there, and it doesn't return anything. So I am going to leave that there. And then all of this code here, this is going to be, this is async callback. Okay, so we're going to rejig all this. So we don't need this in here, we just need to do this. And we can get rid of this here because we don't need that. And begin accept TCP client. Okay, I think what we can do now is we can actually start a coroutine to do that, and I think that's the best thing to do. Okay, all right. All right. Okay. Let's think about this. All right. Okay. All right. So we want our client connected. I'm going to build this up here so that I've got some room to work with. So there's my asynchronous result, and I'm going to have this as this is going to be server.end accept TCP client res, and this is going to give us our TCP client equals res. Okay. So it's looking for something else here. Okay, it's looking for the object state, which is null. So we're not going to give it any object state. All right. So now that we have the client, I think what we do is we do the same thing that we had in our update for our other one, which is we say void update. It's a little bit more complicated because of the way that this works. Maybe I'm overcomplicating this. Let's keep that client up there just now. So now that the client is there, actually let's just see if this works. No, I really do want let's put that back. Right, I really do want a coroutine because I want to be able to spin this out because if we're waiting for things to be connected, and I want it to be always connected and so forth, so I really do want it to have that there. So I'm going to say I enumerate enumerator, enumerable. Sorry, I want to have start coroutine. Okay, so enumerator, and this is going to be the coroutine is going to be called. What's it going to be called? It's going to be called client connection or do client. Let's call it do client, and we'll set that to be null. Okay, so if the client's connected, if do client is equal to null, do client equals do client. So this is going to be a function that we're going to create. So this is going to be our coroutine, and then we're going to do start coroutine do client. Except I think starting a coroutine from here is going to have the same issue as we had with our cross-thread operations. So I think the best thing to do is to have that as just the client is being connected, and then we say void update if client is not equal to null and do client equals null. So in other words, we're not running a coroutine. I want to set that up to be that there. So I want to then do my enumerator, do client. No, so stop that from completing. Okay, so when the client connects, I accept that connection. So now I have my valid client. And then in the update, so again, this is I've accepted a client on my TCP server thread. On the main thread, I need to pick up that client, the bit that's stuck in the middle, and then I want to start a coroutine, and the coroutine is then going to do all the sort of heavy lifting for us. So this is going to do the while true part, except I don't want the while true part anymore. All I want is I just want this bit here. So I can get rid of this. And then inside here, I do my do client. I don't have access to buff. Why don't I have access to buff? Because buff is here. So I bring buff out into here. And then while bytes received is greater than 0, I don't need to get the client stream every single loop. I can just do that there. But what I do need to do is, every time we go through this, I need to yield return null. So now, I think I'm good. I think this is okay. Okay, right, what have we changed? Right. So this bit hasn't changed. This is me creating the quotes and then doing the port and server bind, and then after that is the accept. This is me doing the begin accept TCP client. So I'm waiting for a client to connect. So at some point, a client's going to come along and it's going to connect to this bit of this server, and when that happens, it's going to call this function here. And this function, all it's going to do is it's going to set up the client to be in here. So client is then going to be set to some value. So right now it's set to null. It's the default value for a reference class, which means it's null. So because it's not null and that is equal to null, do client is set to be null. I start the coroutine do client, and then at the very end here I want to set do client equals null and client dot close. I guess I want to close the client, and then I want to do client equals null because I want to stop. I want to have another client connect. Okay, so inside my do client, the reason I want this is because I want this yield return null, because I want to be able to keep spinning the server. I don't want it to stall out. So this is my setup here that says I have a number of bytes received, I have my buffer, I want to get the stream that the client is connected to, and then I want to read from that stream. I want to check to see if it's a quote, and if it is a quote, I want to send data back out on that stream, and then I want to yield return null, which causes us to be back in here. But what we really should do is we really should have these as asynchronous as well, which is maybe something we'll do in a later video rather than doing it in here, but hopefully this should not stall it out as much as we've had it stalled out before. So I am going to run the server, and hopefully we should get a blue play here. In fact, let's put in the old, where's the project? Scenes, quote server. Okay, so let's just change this back to wisdom, and then we'll run the server, and hopefully we'll get the blue arrow. Yes. Okay, so now it's waiting for a connection. So if we go back to here, and then we do press play here, and then we click on get quote. No. So what's happening here? So it's saying client is that, and client is equal to null. Do client is that. Start go routine there. Bytes received is 5. Okay. It just takes a bit of time to come back, I guess. Okay. I'm just being probably a little bit, okay. So I think, I mean, right now it doesn't allow a client reconnection for the server, so I have to do it manually, but at least I can do it manually now. So if we go back to here, and then click on get quote. Oh, I know why. Okay, if I go back to here, and I go back to here, I'll get the quote. And the reason is, and it's a fairly simple fix, is if I go to project settings, where are we, player? I need to have it to run in the background. Where are we? Where's running in the background? Is it quality? I can never remember where this is. Project settings, quality? No. Okay, I can't remember where it is, but basically if you run it in the background, if you allow it to be run in the background, then where is that? Network? Graphics network? No. I don't know. I cannot remember where that is. Time? No. Project settings. I'm sure it was in player. I thought it was in player. There you go. Run in background. I knew it was in player. Okay, so if I run this in the background, if I set this when it's not in play mode and I run this in the background, so now the server is running here, and I can go over here and I can click on play to the client, and I get my quotes, everything works, it's all good. I think though if we try and connect again it won't work, or maybe it will work. Oh no, it will. Will it work? No, it won't work. And the reason why it won't work is because we need to make it accept to begin a TCP client again. So we'll do that there, and then at the very end here we'll do that. So reset everything to defaults, accept a new client. Okay, so now I think everything's fixed. Right, so I connect with the client, and then I do the quote, blah, 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 blah. I get all the quotes, I disconnect, and then I reconnect, and I get all my quotes again. And that's us. Sold!